Now, note-taking is really important, and the reason why, right now it is 10:17. At 10:17 tomorrow, the average person will have forgotten 75 to 80% of what you heard today. That's average memory loss. And so note-taking becomes the only record of the information that you have heard. So it's absolutely essential. Now, is your program 2 weeks?
3.
3 weeks. And how long are your days?
8 hours.
8 hours, okay. You really need to take notes. And I'm going to show you a method for taking notes that is considered to be the most efficient. Now, first of all, let me ask you, does this look familiar to anyone? Do you remember the traditional outline method of taking notes, where you started out with the big Roman numeral, because that was your heading, and then you had a subheading, so you used a capital A, and this was the subtopic, and these were supporting points to the subtopic to the topic. Do you remember that?
30 years ago.
No, we didn't.
She wants us to remember 18 hours ago.
Right. Well, honestly, most people learned how to take notes like this. Most people never use it after they learn how. And that's because this really asks you to do something that's very, very difficult. And that is, this asks you to be able to prioritize what is most important, second important, less important, and who can do that while you're sitting there listening? It's really difficult. Now, if you learn this and you mastered it, that's really good, but the majority of people never use it. So, this is one method of note-taking. I really don't recommend it because I think it's difficult. Another method of note-taking, which is really easy, is going to look like this. This is a sheet of paper. And it is called Cornell System of Note-taking. And it's very simple, but one of the major differences is, you know how on typical notebook paper you have that red line about 1 inch in? In the Cornell system of note-taking, you can buy law-ruled notebook paper, and it actually looks different in one way, and that is that red line is moved in about 3 inches. So what it does is it divides your paper up into a 1/3, 2/3 sheet. Now, I tell my students, just get a tablet of paper, take a ruler, and just draw that line in about 3 inches. Now, while you are sitting in class, the first thing that you need to do is start out with the date and the subject. And when I say subject, I mean what is being discussed at that particular hour. So, when you are sitting in your class, you're mainly going to work with the 2/3 side. And what you're going to do is capture just as much as you can. You know, just grab hold of the main idea. Anytime you hear a new term, box it in. Because you're going to be in a program that's intensive with terminology. And we know the sooner you master that terminology, the sooner you're going to master all of the material that you're learning. Use lots of paper. You should have margins. Anytime you start a new topic, skip a line and just sit there and capture as much as you can. So your notes actually are going to look a little bit like that. Now, there are going to be some days when you're going to come to class and you'll have a lot on your mind, because in addition to your program, you still have your life. And you may find yourself sitting there and all of a sudden look up at the clock and, oh my gosh, 5 or 10 minutes has gone by. If that happens, leave a couple blank lines, put a little question mark right there, okay? This becomes the content of what you are hearing. After you take notes, what you do over here in the 1/3 side is to write up a series of questions about this information. And the reason for that is you're going to be tested at the end of this program. The sooner you think in terms of questions, the sooner you are simulating that test. And so after you take notes, go over here in the 1/3 side and write in questions about this information. Now, if you want to have absolutely the best notes of all, write down here at the end of the lecture, write down a 2 to 3 sentence summary. And that's because summary is main idea. So if you hear all of this detail, you write up all of these questions, that summary becomes the main point. And you always want to reflect back on that. Now in your packet, I'm going to tell you what page. Page 4. You can see an example of the Cornell style of note-taking. Now, when you get home or when you want to study the information that you have just written down, here's what you do. Take a sheet of paper, cover up your notes, ask yourself these questions, and see if you mentally can come up with the answer. So you're already testing yourself. Just a really smart thing to do. Really what you're doing is from day one, you are getting ready for the test. And that's going to make you feel much more confident. The average person speaks at 100 to 125 words per minute. Get this, you have the ability to listen 3 to 4 times that rate. You truly do. So what do? The average person is in for about 30 seconds. Then they rip out for 30 seconds. They're in for 30 seconds, out for 30 seconds. They're in for 30, out for 30, in for 30, until something very, very interesting happens. And you know what that is? You begin to think about something that is so engrossing to you that you just can't drop it. And you look up at the clock and 5 or 10 minutes has gone by. You know how we do that. You think about, oh geez, I really do need to get my car in. It's got 148,000 miles on it and I haven't had the timing belt changed yet. And then you look up at the clock and time has gone by. But we also know that anytime you are listening well, we all do this. There are 3 things that you will do. When you are listening well, first of all, you will formulate questions in your mind. And honestly, as I look around the room, I can see you doing that. Secondly, you will summarize what you're hearing. Just kind of round it up. And the third thing that you will do, if you're listening really, really well, is that you will anticipate what I'm going to say next. You can even be ahead of me, which is why number 3 is false. Because quite often, if you are ahead of the speaker, it means you are listening so intently that you're anticipating where I'm going with the information. Now, number 4, recopying your notes will help you organize the lecture's ideas and therefore should always be done.
True.
False. You don't have time to recopy your notes. Now, but I would also say that's what makes it extremely important to learn how to take good notes. Lots of people recopy their notes and they call it studying, but you can sit there and recopy your notes without really thinking about the information. It can become just a physical process. So it makes much more sense to learn how to take good notes up front. So you really want to be on yourself about your notes. Number 5, review your notes as soon as possible after class to fill in missing parts and to begin to learn the information.
True.
Your information in your long-term memory is constructive. It changes from the moment you hear or see something. The sooner you get back to your notes, the more accurate the information is. Your long-term memory is absolutely infinite. But that does not mean that you can always get the information out.
Sounds like my computer.
It is like your computer. You are totally dependent in recall on how well you organize the information when it's going in. Okay, let me give you an example. It takes the average person about 10 seconds to just say the months of the year. Do we have a volunteer? Cassandra,
Tell me when to go.
go.
January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December.
4 seconds.
Go girl.
Sharp as a tack. Okay, Cassandra's off the hook now. Now I'm feeling very generous. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to say the months of the year. But this time, I'd like you to do it in alphabetical order.
Oh,
Okay, let's do it as a group. What would come first?
April.
Right.
February.
No.
Oh.
August. August. How about after August?
Where did I get March?
February.
No. December. What's next?
February.
Time's up. Okay, this is exactly what your long-term memory is like. The first time I asked you to recall in the way that you organized. That's how you learn the months of the year. The second time I asked you to recall, I took your organization away from you. When I take your organization away from you, it's almost impossible to recall. So, your challenge is you have to find a way when you're learning this information of how to organize it when it's going in, your long-term memory. Tina, you said it sounds like your computer, right? She was exactly right. Your long-term memory is like a hard drive on a computer. Just think of what a computer would be like if you had no folders.
Oh, jeez.
That's what your long-term memory is like unless you organize.
Defrag.
Right. So that is your challenge. How can I come up with ways of organizing? Well, let me show you something else. There is something in life, and I want you to focus on this, called the 80-20 split. And that refers to the Pareto principle. And the Pareto principle is a theory that was discovered by Vilfredo Pareto in the 1800s, an Italian economist. He said there's something really strange in life that quite often the activities that we complete can be broken down into 80-20. Here's what that means to you. Okay, here's your textbook. 80% of the importance of the information in this textbook resides in only 20% of the words. I mean, that's really significant. 80% of the importance of the information resides in only 20% of the words. So getting back to organization, your challenge is, how do you determine what those 20% of the words are?
Mm-hmm.
That's organization while you're learning.